All right, welcome to the podcast, man. How's it going?
It's going good, good,
Yeah,
good. How about you?
going good, real good. But why don't you just kind of introduce yourself, tell people what you're about, man?
Okay, so my name is Eli, right?
Hmm.
I go to Lawrence High School. Eli Willis, my bad.
Yeah,
Um, I go to Lawrence High School. I play baseball at Lowndes. Good friends with Charlie. I just turned 17 2 days ago.
yeah, man.
So that's me.
Yeah, and so I know that for like baseball, they just built this like was it? Where is that at in Lowndes? They just built like a brand new like area for you guys, right?
Yeah, we
Like,
just got a brand new locker room.
yeah,
It is right next to it, literally right next to it. You can't miss it when you walk in. You're right, the bleachers. And you have the thing like right next to the bleachers on the left, the home side.
yeah.
Is the dugout. The building is the locker room.
Hmm.
It might be nicer than anything I've ever seen.
Honestly, I think it is because looking at the pictures and stuff, I was like, wow,
Yeah,
like they really, I'd love to know how much money they poured into that. Because I mean, just imagine all the money they've poured into like just the whole entire school. We're building the new building,
yeah.
this indoor training facility, and now that, like all that they've done,
And then
like
last year too, we just got a new turf field.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I don't even, and people say that I hear all the time say Lowndes is broke. They're
No,
not broke.
they're not.
No, they're not broke. I promise.
Well, they might be after building the new locker room,
Yeah.
but
Well, I wouldn't say that because they've already got like a 10-year plan in place
yeah.
for new schools. I think Lake Park is next.
Oh really?
Yeah, because I mean it's so old. They're gonna
Yeah.
have to do something with it eventually. Um, but like what is kind of your I guess story about how you came to Christ, things like that. Like
Okay, so it's pretty simple. I
yeah,
grew up in a God house.
yeah.
We went to church every Sunday, and of course, I'm sure most people know when you're young, you don't
You don't
really,
fully understand it.
you don't fully understand it, and also you're basically dragged along.
Yeah,
You don't really know what's going on. You're forced to go to church. You don't really understand it, and it was hard growing up. Like I didn't understand why we went to church. It
yeah,
just didn't make sense to me, and I never really liked going to church until about third grade. I
yeah.
was about 9. I was about 9 before I actually like understood what was going on,
Hmm.
and it was like a night of my third grade. My brother had just gotten saved. My brother was 5 years,
Hmm.
2 weeks, and 1 day older than me.
Yeah,
His birthday was December 4th. He just turned 22.
that's my parents' anniversary. Yeah.
It really?
Uh huh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And but he had just gotten saved. This was March 15th.
Hmm.
He got saved, and then March 22nd, I decided, hey, I want to get saved. I want to give my life to Christ.
Yeah.
I want to fully understand and go deeper into the Word. And I wanted to be like my brother growing up, like
Yeah.
100%.
Of course.
I
Yeah.
wanted to be like my brother. I would never tell him that, but
Well, if he listens to this, he's gonna figure that out.
oh
But
no, but I would 100% want to be like my brother.
yeah,
And so him getting saved just led me to the right path, and I'm very thankful.
that's awesome. Yeah,
Very grateful.
yeah. And it's kind of I guess I don't really have a. I mean, I did have like a few pushers, like Baines and Steven were the ones that like pushed me, and I was like, because around October it was the first time Steven had come over to the house and everything. He just was really open about his faith, and I was like, that was so cool because I didn't really have friends that were open about it or just heard about it. Because I mean, our school, you're not unless we go to FCA or something or talk to
Yeah,
a friend that is open about it, you're not going to hear it.
especially when you have a school with 3,000 students and only God knows how many are saved and
Yeah,
what actually goes on behind those doors.
I would like to know the percentage, like
Yeah,
of
that would be a fun statistic.
Oh yeah,
I don't think I like it very much, but I think it'd
no,
be very eye opening and
yeah,
how much we need to share
it would
with
be.
the school.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and I look at it and I go like, sure, FCA is a great platform because there's, I mean, they pack the gym in there, especially for that first like for the fall
Oh yeah,
semester. That first one was crazy, and I don't know if it was just all the promotion they did for it or what, or it might have been the free chicken biscuits. I don't know, but whatever it was, it got people in there, and it was
yeah,
I mean, and even though there was less after that, we still packed all the bleachers that they had in there, So I mean, but who knows? I would love to know that statistic too. Like,
I really wish I could have gone to every single FCA thing, but
yeah.
with baseball, we had morning
Oh, I
workouts.
bet you were
We had
busy.
6:45.
Woo. Mm.
So that means show up at 6:30 or you're late. And so every morning, and then we didn't get done until about 7:30. And
Yeah.
you're all hot and sweaty. We got to take a shower afterwards.
Yeah.
And then even if I had time to go to FCA, my first class was at VSU at 8 o'clock sharp.
You had to, just go. Like, yeah. Hopefully, I'm hoping your schedule might be a bit more relaxed this night. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, mine, like 3 of my classes are on the same floor. Let's go. Yeah. So I don't have to, go up and down on that elevator too much, which stories you're hearing there. People listening, you can probably understand what I'm talking about. Like, there's some interesting stories you're in there I'll give an example. Like, I just was, I wasn't minding my own business, and I just hear this girl say, "How far along are you?" How far along are you? Wait a minute. Oh, she's pregnant. Yeah. Yeah, that's, so that's the type of stuff you hear. And of course, they didn't want her going, or her doctor didn't want her going on the stairs because she's pregnant. So, but it's just like, this is the type of stuff that you hear in the elevators and anywhere else, but especially in there. You hear some backward stuff going from floor to floor. Oh, yeah. Really, really weird. But, another thing that I want to talk about too is, kind of how we met a little bit, because I think that's a pretty cool story in itself, Like, so, and I don't think I've ever asked, what was your first impression of me when we were in? Yeah.
Ninth grade was definitely a rough year for me.
Yeah.
And like the first impression walking in there, I was like, this class is, this is gonna be a fun class.
It was a fun class.
You walked in, and I'm just like, there's another guy,
Yeah.
I didn't really think much about about how you walked or anything like that.
Yeah.
It just like, ask for a man is
There's another guy. Yeah.
So I do think it was very good, and I do that. I still do that now, but I don't see people differently.
That's great.
Based on their race, how they act. The only thing I really think about when I look at somebody is their faith.
Yeah,
that's the only thing, and you don't judge them about that. You just try to help them and lead them on into their faith. So I think I do a really good job of that.
That's good. Yeah, for me, you really have to like give off a certain vibe for me to for me to not go maybe talk to you or something. Like, you'd have to really, really not make me want to go over there or whatever it may be. But I just remember because I was like dreading like pee so bad. I was because of course it was something I had to take, and I was like, well, crap, I can't get out of this. Like, because in middle school I could, because they didn't make me take it with like certain things or whatever, and I was happy about that. But then I found out, oh, it's a required class. Great. So we had to do that, and but it turned out to be one of the best classes I've ever had. With you and Kaden and everything and your help and all that. It was so fun. Like, it really was. And of course, even some of the weird stuff, you weren't there for that. Like, and just for context, I would sit right behind Eli in class in the very back, and so my plan was to duck behind his head and not look at nothing. He wasn't there that day.
I had a baseball game.
He had a baseball game.
We got checked out when we were watching some interesting stuff on health class.
Oh yeah, you can imagine what it was, and I knew that something was different about that class when I preferred the like fitness stuff over the like and stuff like that over the classwork, because before that would have been completely backwards. Like I'd have been like dreading like doing the physical stuff, but like doing some of that was really, really fun, honestly. And Miss Craven, she was really, really good about working with me too. Yeah,
her husband too is an amazing guy. I love that.
Yeah.
I've been friends. They've known me since I was born.
Yeah. They were. She was like so like, as soon as I walked up to her and told her like, hey, this is the situation, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. She worked with me so so well, and like, it's crazy to think we were the final group she taught. Like, when she left, we were the final group, and like, not trying to like, brag or nothing, but I think we were a pretty good group to end off on. Sure, it had its issues sometimes, but we also had its funny moments too. A lot of them. It was a blast though.
It was. I had really fun with that class. That was probably my favorite class.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I think, I'm so thankful for that class, just because, like, if it wasn't for that class, I don't think we would have ever met, just in another way, because, honestly, we run in two different circles, of people and things like that. So, if it wasn't for that class, we wouldn't have met. And then now, we go to the same church and everything, it was, so that's so cool, just from that one class, how much, and we've had, a class together every single year. So 9th, 10th, and 11th, because we had North. We had North twice, and then we had PE.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
I thought about that the other day. I was like, we've had a class together for like every single. Yeah.
That's crazy. So,
Yeah.
that class was like a blast. I had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, me too.
Especially the Fridays when we'd have the team out there.
Yeah, and just walk around the track, yeah, or something like that. Yeah. I mean, and like, and of course, I know that he's got stuff going on right now, so I don't want to like dog him too much. But, I remember like with Kendall, like he wouldn't do his stuff or whatever. And honestly, and I'm being completely honest, it kind of made me feel good because I was doing the stuff better than he was. So it was like, hey, I'm doing something better than what he's than what he's doing or whatever. Probably shouldn't have looked at it that way, but
it does help. It helps with your confidence for sure.
It does. I mean, because I didn't have a lick of confidence going into any of that stuff. I mean, I would be completely honest because, I mean, why would I? That was the first time I'd taken PE since like elementary school. So, why would I have confidence in it really? But I mean, and I've talked about that story, I don't know how many times on, with Cody's podcast. So the first episode I did with him and just this one, I've talked about it so many times and I'm not going to stop because it's such a good one. But, yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear that you had such a blast on that class too, because I mean, and like Miss Craven was an excellent teacher. I mean, I don't think there wasn't a better teacher. I don't think at the time.
So.
I mean, because I'd heard about the other ones, and they were kind of like, meh, like because I'd heard like, oh yeah, my teacher don't make us do nothing, and it's like, well, what's the point in coming to this class then if you're not going to do nothing? Like, it's like just don't come and then get a bad grade on it. But I mean, that's what made it fun, really. I mean, just kind of to push yourself, and especially for me to push myself and see what I could do, because that was really like, and it was really fun. Plus, I remember towards the end, I mean, I've got a bunch of weird pictures of like me and some other friends too that we took on, like we were sitting on the stairs, and I've got some like really weird pictures of us too. Like there's a picture of Lane. He's like his face like really zoomed in. He's like, huh. It's like it was, So we got some really funny pictures in there too. But yeah, I mean, it was an absolute blast, really. But when you look around, like just LHS and everywhere else that you go, what are some things that you think they could help, like the youth and things like that, to come to Christ or whatever it may be, just to help them, right?
I definitely think they could talk about it more.
Yeah.
I know in today's society, like a lot of people are judgy and very judgmental, and I think that coming in to FCA and LHS, it should be a very judgmental place. You should come in and be unjudged, just do whatever you need to, come in how you are. I feel like if we stop stop judging people as much, it'd be a whole lot easier to get people to come to the Word.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, and of course, and unfortunately, because we're human, I mean, I struggle with that all sometimes. Sometimes not. I try not to, but like it's just like, you might see somebody on the street and it's like, whoa, what happened to you? Like so. But and I'm like, well, then I. Yeah.
You can't really do anything about that. It also is the devil working in you.
Yeah.
Which is horrible.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I mean, like this up here, he uses this in so many different ways, and it's just like that like it can. He can, if you let it, it can destroy you so bad. I mean,
I once heard one thing. It was like the first thing you think of when you see somebody is what you're taught to see.
Yeah.
What everybody around you is telling you what you should see, and the second thought is what you actually believe.
Yeah.
So like when you go up to somebody and you're like, oh man, they don't look too hot, and you rethink, just like, oh, I wonder what they're going through. How can I help?
Yeah.
That's what you actually believe, and that's what you feel like. Because a lot of people are saying the first impression. First impression, I never really liked that.
Yeah.
First impression is not very good to a lot of people, especially people.
I mean, because you feel like you have to be like a certain way or something, and then
you feel like you have to be perfect.
Yeah.
To get first met, and that's just impossible. Nobody's perfect other than Jesus.
Exactly.
So.
If you hear that, that's just my dogs in the background. But you're right. I mean, because like. It's because like when you look at other people too, they set like say I don't know social media influencers, right? They like set this like bar that people feel like they have to have to reach.
A lot of it is just behind the scenes. You just don't actually see what's going on. It's a lot of just fake, Photoshop, all that kind of stuff. Where you're just like it's not real, and you're setting yourself you're trying to compare yourself to them, and they are near perfect because they have used technology and, you know, wonder working and like manipulations to to make you think that they are perfect. They just aren't.
Exactly.
Like if you saw a social media influencer just out in the wild, you would never know.
No,
because they're not special.
No,
everybody else.
exactly. Like, I mean, it's just like it's so crazy, because they'll have like these big, huge numbers, and you're like, oh, I gotta shoot for that. Yeah, let's do that. Like you don't have to do that to make an impact on somebody. Like, just to give an example, like me and a friend, AJ Hughes, we just raised over like $820 for Mr. Ellenberg. Like, and if for the ones who didn't know if I mentioned it, like his daughter has cancer, 5 years old. And I was, because AJ came to me, he was like, the Lord's put this idea in my head about, this raising this money. And at first it was going to be a GoFundMe. But then we found out teachers were doing that also. And we were like, let's do something different. And apparently GoFundMe takes a percentage of the money. So we didn't want to do that. Yeah. Especially when you're trying to do something for people.
Do something nice for somebody.
And then, they just, right. So, we decided, let's just raise money and then maybe have somebody make up a card or something like that, which we ended up doing. And, we thought maybe the goal was like $200. We didn't expect it to go to $820. I mean, I know. I mean, and it fell right into place because, I mean, so I went into test, for my, like, EOCs, like with somebody for 3 days, like different, than Mr. Ellenberg, so I get more time. And it turns out that she worked with Mr. Ellenberg, like, co-taught, right? Well, she gives me that, because she knew me because of testing. I never knew who she was beforehand. Says, hey, we got this idea, or this thing. He needs a cleaning service done for, because it needs to be deep cleaned, whatnot, because even though his house is clean, it's cancerous. They're trying to get every bit of bacteria out. And so, we'd already raised maybe close to, I think, $88, and that was in like 2 days, something like that, which is still insane to me. Like $88 in 2 days, so with her help, and she added, the remaining balance to make it 100. She gave that to the cleaning lady so his house could get cleaned. And I was like, all because just because I went and tested with her, she gave me this opportunity. She knew about what we were trying to do, and then we gave her that money, and then she went and got Mr. Ellenberg's house cleaned. That's the Lord working. I mean, and then we just, me and AJ, we didn't want to stop. We were like, we got time. Let's raise more, So obviously that's where it went, because so in total, like in that envelope, we gave him $720, and then added with that 100 that we'd raised beforehand, it was $820, and it was. I mean, just to look at it and go, this is absolutely crazy, And then we started to, me and AJ, we were just curious, and we were wondering, like, is Mr. Ellenberg, a Christian? And of course, because he can't verbally say it.
You can't say that on record.
Because he's a teacher. Right. Well, so we started picking up some signs or whatever, just kind of, because we were just curious, One thing, he's played the guitar at FCA, and he was getting into it, So that was one thing that was kind of like, I'll keep that in mind, And then another thing is we just started kind of talking to him a little bit, because we didn't know how much he was going to be at school next semester. So we talked to him. We were talking to him, and we looked on his desk, and he's got like a little like plushy rock thing that says "Jesus is my rock." And then he's got a Bible on his desk and a few like journals, I think. And I was like, okay, I think I mean, I don't know how like strong in his faith he is, but he's definitely. He's definitely there, and of course he would never tell us that if we asked, because again, he's a teacher, which is one thing that, and I get it, because there's so many different opinions and how kids are nowadays, but at the same time it would be nice to know, I guess, because you feel like, because if you don't know, you feel like there's such a small minority of Christians. In reality, there's so many. There's so many, and you don't know about it.
Yeah, and I also think like another thing when you think about it, there's not enough. Obviously there's never enough. Everybody should be Christian,
right?
But when you're like there's such a small percentage, I feel like it's because a lot of people are afraid to go out and share the gospel, just maybe because they think they have a lack of knowledge, or they're scared to go talk to somebody because they're afraid to be judged.
Yeah.
And I just always thought, like, when I would go out and share the gospel, I'm definitely not the most knowledgeable person. I'm sure.
Me neither. Yeah.
That, especially in the Word of God, there's so much to go into and think about. But every time I would go up there and talk to somebody, the hardest part was just going up there and asking, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And you don't want to just go straight into it.
Right.
So you want to introduce yourself, get to know them. But immediately when I started talking to him, I felt like a switch had turned.
Yeah.
I think it's just God just saying, hey, I got you.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you, and one of the, they say this in Northside a lot, I don't know about other churches, but I know they say this in Northside a lot, is that, if you don't know where to start with your own testimony, because that can never be, that can't be disproven. Like, they won't, come back with the rebuttal with something. So, well, it says this and that. It's like, well, you can't disprove my own testimony. Yeah, this is what God has done,
You can't just tell me.
Exactly. You can't disprove the fact that I was 2,013 ounces at birth and I'm still standing here and sitting here and talking to you. You can't disprove that. And, I went back and kind of dug into some medical records, around my birthday, because I was just curious, what do these say? Because I know my mom kept them. And it was so interesting. So I had a whole bunch of plethora of stuff, but the only thing that God left me with was, leg problems a little, and they're minor. They're extremely minor, compared to, some other people, like Marshall, for example. You know who that is? He is, but he's, who I'm talking about? The one that's in the wheelchair, like motorist wheelchair. He has the same thing I do, but it's a different, it can come in different degrees. Yeah. Like, obviously,
there's definitely a spectrum, like, some people have it worse than others.
Oh, yeah. And I remember because he had said his testimony, they did a video for it, like, last year. And I remember just sitting there, I was just kind of like, when he said that he had the same thing I did, I just kind of everything was just, my eyes were on that video, because I was like, what, because what had happened and everything. And his testimony is like so good, because, before everything happened, he had like a rough home life and stuff. He had, everything that he learned was from the experience, like, of him almost like dying. When he came to Christ, like, that's all he had. He hadn't been to church or whatever. So it's just crazy what the Lord can do for, just like that.
Just like that. Mm-hmm. Somebody in anybody's life, everybody and anybody.
Oh, yeah.
You can just, he just comes down and touches you, shows, like, he is the one. Like,
yeah.
You need him no matter what you do in your life. So,
yeah.
That is, I do remember watching that. We came and visited that Sunday.
Yeah.
It was an amazing testimony.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because I was, I was sitting there and I was just like, I kind of just sat back for a minute. I was like, whoa, okay. So, there's many, like, medical, like, I guess you could say, I don't know, I won't say issues, but, prognosis or whatever, that can leave you wheelchair bound like that, so I wasn't sure if it was, I knew there was a possibility it could have been cerebral palsy, but how was I supposed to know unless I walked up and asked him, which I never, did at the time, just, because he was kind of off on doing his own thing and I was doing mine. I'd always say hi to him in the hallways or whatever, but, how was I supposed to know that? And then when I found that out, it just kind of just, like, I don't know, it kind of just put me, like, not really in my place, but just kind of into shock. I was like, well, oh my, because, and I've kind of said this to people, and, like, I don't want this to, like, come off weird, but it's just like, well, he's going to do amazing things, for, the kingdom, right? And just in his life. At the same time, I'm so thankful that I didn't, in a way, this makes sense, I'm glad I didn't end up, wheelchair bound like he did. I'm so thankful for that. But I always try to, like, be careful with that because, of course, he's an amazing person. But I'm also glad that didn't happen to me because I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing right now. And, you were talking about the, like with fear and everything and going to talk with people. That was the number one thing that I had going into this podcast, jumping straight into it, because it was fear. And then also just like the knowledge, because, I've only been like pursuing Christ for like less than a year. Like that's coming up in April is a year, with my walk. Right. And so I was like, I knew it was something I wanted to do and needed to do because I've always wanted to help people. But just like, I was like, how can I start this? Like, I don't know much. I know like a few verses and that's about it, But obviously that's just kind of with more research, things like that. That's fun to do. Just going around and researching. I've got all my notes in that drawer right there. But, it's just so fun to, because you dive into the word more that way, and learn. And I've definitely, I could say, obviously, I've been even just learning one verse this whole entire year. That's even improvement because I barely knew anything, from.
There's always improvement.
Oh, yeah, always.
No matter who you are, no matter how close you are with God, you can always grow closer. Like Pastor Rob, probably one of the most knowledgeable in Christ people that anybody ever knows.
Yeah.
Like, he's an amazing pastor. I love
him. Me too. And plus, he's so funny, too.
I know. He's such an amazing pastor. And you just know, like, he still gets closer every single day.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so crazy to think about how you can, like, never be too close. It's awesome to think you can always grow in your faith.
Yeah, and one thing that kind of happened on this last episode, because I shifted things around a little bit, so I put my Christmas episode out, maybe a couple of days ago, and one of the things that happened, because you remember when Pastor Robbie was talking about how, like, the reason why they call Jesus the Lamb is because that's how they wrapped, like, the lambs, like, up, like in the swaddling clothing, right? I said that on this podcast, and that was something new for somebody that's been in their walk for, like, since they were a kid. Like, they're 25, 26 years old, and I was like, whoa, that's insane. Like, they've been doing this for, like, so long, and they learned something from, what the Lord's put on my heart, and learned from, well, it's crazy. So I can even trickle down. It goes from Pastor Avi to me and then to him. Yeah. It's like, it's never ending. Right. It's never ending. It's so crazy how, things can just work, I mean, it just, it's just awesome to see how, those effects can happen, really. I mean, the people that I've come across too, like, AJ, I've been great friends with them or whatever, but we never really talked, about faith or anything because I didn't have a relationship. Yeah. And then, the year that I get into a relationship, with Christ, I have a class with him, and then we get to really, like, expand on what we already had, for a friendship. And I mean, I know it's probably brought us closer too, with everything, and going to the same church and everything. I mean, and I've met some awesome people like Drew, even though he's crazy, but, I think we all are at some point, aren't we? But, like, it's just been so cool. And I think one of the things that I've, like, want so bad is to, because my friends, they watched me, and they led me to Christ, right? And watched me get baptized. They were both there. I remember, like, I have this, like, mental, like, picture, right? I mean, how the sanctuary is built, like, looking in there, like, so I was looking down, and they were, so, where the middle is, and then where that's it. So I was on, like, they were on the right area, right? And I'm looking down at them, and, I'm about to get dunked, right? Yeah. And, so, and I just look down at them, and they're just, like, both smiling back at me, and I smile right back at them. It's just, like, that's something I just remember, it's just like, it's just my brain just took that picture right there.
Some things you just, like, never forget.
No, I mean,
I was super young when I got baptized. Yeah. I still remember to a T.
That's exactly cool.
And still, one thing that's so funny to me today is, those, like, pools of water, they're heated, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad it was heated.
Oh, yeah. No, mine wasn't.
Oh.
The heater had broke, like, the week before.
Oh, no.
I was, like, 9. I walking in there. I was shivering cold.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter. I went under.
Yeah.
Came back up, confessing my faith.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Wet water. It was clean, dirty, hot, cold. Didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's about the symbolism.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think it's pretty cool to think about.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, one of the things that, because I was on a podcast with a younger guy, his name was Ben Shelby, and one of the things I was talking about this, and he was, one of the things he hasn't heard before is that when a son and then a mom getting rededicated, because she got rededicated that same day, and, because, because she knew that she needed to, because she'd gotten saved and baptized, like, around the same age as me, now, but she knew she needed to, and it's been, a while, and plus it was just, cool to not have to go in alone, because, like, it can be also a scary thing, because, like, you're like, am I doing the right thing? Like, and, it didn't hit me till, like, I don't know, maybe a few hours, because it had to just kind of settle in, after the service and all that. It didn't hit me till maybe a few hours, maybe a day after. I was like, oh my gosh, I actually did it, didn't I? Like, because I had to, my dad was right behind me and ready to help me and all that. And I was just kind of in shock. He was like, so how do you feel? And I was like, I don't know yet. It's like, give me a minute. I don't know yet. But I mean, it's, it was an awesome feeling though. And, now with, I'm thankful that I did get baptized at this age though, because now guess what? There's cameras, there's videos, there's things like that. So you can look back on that. And I was even able to make because I'm a pretty good editor. Yeah, I was able to make a video for it. My mom wanted me to, and I can look back on that video, repost it, whatever. And another just cool fact about it is that Randy Mullenix, the other one another pastor they put in there, if Pastor Robbie's not, yeah. So I was the first one that he baptized at Northside. He hadn't been there all that long, I'm assuming. And he said to me, he was like, "You're the first person I've ever baptized at Northside." And I was like, "Huh, wait, say that again. let me see if I heard you right." And it's so funny to me because every time he's the pastor, if I see him, because of course they'll be standing right at that right door, if we go up, and it's so funny to me because every time he sees me, like it's usually Stephen and Baines, they'll go, before I do. And like he's just gonna say, "Hi guys, how you doing?" And then he sees me and he's like, "Hey, it's good to see you again." Like he like brightens up when he sees me, and it's the funniest thing to me. Like, yeah. And so does Pastor Robbie. He does the same thing. He did that last week, and it was so funny to me. But like, I mean, when I heard that I was the first person that he had baptized there, I was like, really? Like, that's wild. And I don't know if you heard or if Pastor Robbie told you, but we're having 6 people get baptized on Christmas.
I heard about 4. I didn't know about 6.
Well, I think there was like 2 in the early service. No, there was 2 in there because it was maybe a couple, I think, that was in the early service, and then there must have been the other 4 in the later one.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be 6 on that 10:30 service, and we're going to get to watch it. But on Christmas, I was like, and it's such an opportunity, I think, for all of us that we're getting to go to church on Christmas. Yeah. And on like the first day of the new year, we get to go to to church as well.
That's a great way to start the year.
Oh yeah, definitely. Me and my parents both said that, like me and my mom, we both said that. We were like, yeah, that is an amazing way to start out the year. Plus, that don't happen very often, so you might as well take the advantage of it. And sure, it's going to change up how we do Christmas, this year, but who cares? It's like, we'll figure it out, I mean, plus we'll have to, my mom get up early anyway. So, because usually I have to say, hey, get up. But now she has to get up. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just been like such a amazing experience, to talk to people like you and to hear their stories and stuff like that. And that's the goal of this podcast, to maybe inspire, like if it's just one person, I mean, if it's just one person, like, that can, have a trickle effect too. I think, I don't do this story justice, but, friend of mine, Donovan, he tells a story all the time. It's about a shoemaker, and it's about, how D.L. Moody became how he is today. Do you know who that is? I think he's like a well-renowned pastor, and like he's led millions to Christ. Yeah. And like, I think this shoemaker, like, spread the word. I'm getting this right, but spread the word to D.L. Moody, and then that lit a fire in him, and then he spread it all across. Yeah. And so, that's just one instance. Like, spreading the gospel to one person can just affect millions.
It's like a huge domino effect.
Oh yeah.
Turns into 2, turns into 4, turns into 8.
Mm-hmm. And yeah,
really crazy to think about.
I mean, and if you kind of look at it, like, I mean, with Stephen, because he was Baines was, he was a part of it too, but Stephen was the main like force, because she was the one that came over to my house and talked about it, and everything. So because of like, all them talking about it, like it was a butterfly effect for not just me but my mom also, because she wouldn't have got rededicated if I didn't get saved, And I remember, because we got saved on Easter, and that was the funnest thing ever, because I turned back around and I see Baines and his family. So we're all sitting together. They're like, we started crying over here. I'm like, man, you have to tell me that. You're maybe start crying over here. But it was, and people think that's such a complicated process. It's really not. And honestly, you can do that. You can do that anywhere. Like I just heard a story of and it was Donovan. He said that he was talking to his son. Like he said, he was about 4 at the time. They were in the truck, and he was asking all these questions about God. Like, of course he was answering them, like he should. And then he was just like, well, what can I do to like be saved and all that? All you got to do is proclaim him, and he did exactly that, like right in the truck. Right, I mean, so like people think that like it's so complicated, and I do think that and of course, I'm not saying that Northside, like the way they do it is just like, it's so bad. Like it's not. It's a wonderful way they do it. However, I think it does there's a bit of a fear factor in there, because the way they do it, you got to walk up there, and you're in front of everybody, and it's like, how you doing? Like, so there's probably a bit of a fear factor in there, but I mean, the amount of people that I mean, there's a lot of people that have moved their letters that I've seen. Like, even Stephen moved his from, was it, I think it might have been either Redland, I think, over by his house, from to Northside, So that was just a cool thing to watch that happen. But now I'm wanting to see somebody, or at least that I personally know, come to Christ, though. That's like, I don't want to say that's on my bucket list, but that's something I definitely want to see happen. I mean, have you, seen that? You have seen that?
It's really amazing to see, especially when you, see them, them before they've gotten saved. You watch how they act, you watch their mannerisms.
Yeah.
And then, you see them get saved. You watch it happen.
Mm-hmm.
You were there, and then you just see the change working in their life. It's so amazing to see.
I know.
It's like a snap. It's literally, it takes that long. It's that easy. And you just see a whole switch in a whole different direction in their life. They're going one way, they split off in the path.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing.
And I think it might have been, I think Pastor Robbie might have said this at some point. He said that a lot of people think, and I mean, I'm hoping that he said this, but it's what I got out of it in one of the messages. He said, that, people think there's this is an instant switch when they come out of the water. Well, yes, it is. But at the same time, you see that change, as they continue on their life, because they're starting to do things I normally wouldn't have done before, whether it be helping people or just diving into the Word more. One of the things I've noticed is I wouldn't have walked up to people as much as I do. Like, I walked up to people more and just introduced myself. I wouldn't have done that. I still have some issues with it, but I've done that more. With Drew, I did that. I just I looked at his, I think it was, what was it? I looked at his water bottle. I was like, you know what? He got these stickers on here that, he don't seem like a pretty bad guy. So I ordered him, introduced myself, and then just bam. And then he invited me to Wednesday night, and I've been going ever since then.
Yeah.
So there's just that trickle effect again. You don't know, how it's going to affect you or others. I mean, and it's just it's so crazy, and I look at that Ellenberg thing. I mean, it just fell all into place, and you can't, because people will still deny, even after hearing that, that there's no God.
You can't deny that something went on.
I know.
Whether they think it's God or not,
yeah.
You cannot deny that something went on, something happened that day, those days, that week, that stretch, however long it was.
Yeah.
You cannot deny that something just happened.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can't.
You can't deny that $820 was raised.
I mean, I know, and I still can't believe that. I mean,
strictly students and maybe some teachers.
Yeah, it was strictly students, and then I made my parents donate, but yeah. I mean, so it was mainly students though, and also just, and maybe it was the Christmas season. I have no idea, but I mean, also the amounts that we got too were just, I mean, it showed that our generation does have some kindness left in it, because I mean, of course, I can get overshadowed by, well, we know, all this stuff. I think one kid donated $50. I was like, dude, I mean, and I mean, he works at a Chick-fil-A, one of these around here. And I was like, dude, that is insane. I mean, thank you. I'm so thankful that you did that. But wow. I mean, and a lot of them were 20s, 30s. I mean, that was a lot, And I remember we pulled that, so we poured it on, the girl's desk because we were trying to get all that put in the card and everything. She'd made a pocket for it. The pocket was too small. We had so much money, the pocket wouldn't fit. I mean, and it was just about to come out of the card. It was just like, how do we stuff this in there? And it was the funniest thing though. But yeah, we had, it was so cool,
Yeah.
I mean, and is there any been small instances like that where you were able to help somebody that, that you can think of that you're just God had his hand in that, whether it be,
definitely. Back when I was still younger and I still went to Morningside,
yeah,
where Lance goes,
yeah,
there was this young girl that they were just out by her house, and her dad had killed a rattlesnake, cut his head off,
yeah,
and the little girl didn't know, they still bite, even if they have
yeah.
reaction. She walks by and steps on his head and it bites her, and she gets transported to the ER,
right? And
I just watched the church converge and just donate so much money,
that's
food,
awesome.
Help, warmness, kindness, and money. It was just awesome to watch.
Oh yeah.
As young as I was,
oh yeah.
What was going on, and it was just really, really cool to see.
And and now that I look back on it, because of course before I got saved, I wouldn't have thought of it this way, but with me, like with the Michael Clark Foundation, that was the one that donated for Mr. Ellenberg, gave us that $500 check. Oh, that was so good that night. But I mean, they helped me a long time ago. I don't even know how much they gave me, gave my parents. But I mean, even back then, it's crazy how much stuff cost. I mean, just to take me from, I think, across the street from the hospital to the field where they had the helicopter, because back then, SGMC didn't have a helipad on it, so they had to land in a field in like VSU, and so like just to take me, it was like, I might be getting the total wrong, but I thought it was like $1,500 just to get me like to go across the street. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I can't imagine what things are now, like with, prices and everything, how they've hiked and everything. Exactly. And I can't imagine that. Like, especially, and I know there's a bunch of families, around here that want to give their kids like the best Christmas they possibly can, but they can't because of money limitations.
Any parents to say like wishes upon their kid like a bad Christmas.
Like, no.
Every parent that I know, wants to get their kid the world. It's just, I know it's heartbreaking to a lot of them, but they know they can't. And it's awesome to see when, parents are able to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Really cool, yeah. And I mean, it's just, and like when you were going back to the churches, like, it was so, it's just so cool to like, to see that type of stuff like that. Well, like so much, I mean, like around the total they raised for them, or was it just a bunch? It was a bunch, yeah. I mean, I just can't imagine. I mean, and I think it honestly, my like drive to raise more money for Mr. Allenberg, really kicked in because he came back that Monday and told us more about like what was going on. I mean, we knew his daughter had cancer and whatnot, and I would tell you the name, but it's so complicated. I don't even. It's not one you hear about. No, it's like someone with an eye, but I don't know. But he said that she was 5 years old, and that really like it really kicked in. And I was like, that is a 5-year-old. I mean, having that's not even begun to experience what life is like. Like so. Let's see if we can really knock it out of the park and go past this $200 goal. Which I mean, even in itself, if we were able to raise $200, I'd have been happy. That was still that'd have been an amazing thing. But yeah, I mean, it was just that was so awesome. And one thing I was thinking about, kind of shifting gears a little bit. So with baseball, like, do you is there like that? Because I get it with the podcast. Is there like, do you feel like there's like a brotherhood in there? Like, is like a big? Yeah, I kind of figured there.
There is a lot of stuff that goes on baseball.
Yeah,
a lot of it is really, really godly, and there is definitely those select few that just like they're just out I wouldn't say outcasts.
Yeah,
they're definitely not outcasts, but they just they're not like in tune with the word.
Yeah,
like some of us are, and it's just like I've watched 2 or 3 of them just change. It's really cool.
That's awesome. And it was because being around you, the rest of you, that's cool.
And it's really cool to see like how a group of people can affect just one person, and that one person will affect a group of people,
mm-hmm.
Then that group of people could affect another person.
Yeah.
And it's just really, really cool to see.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because with this podcast and stuff, like, because I'm not gonna say I had it with TikTok because like, no, I did not. But it was cool to have like a community of sorts and things like that. Yeah. However, I started looking into it because I mean, like the account's still up, but I haven't posted in months. I mean, because it's not a good place to be. I mean, it's really, really not. And I realized that quickly after I did that first podcast episode with Cody. I was like, I can't do this. Like, I know I've met some cool people on here, but this app is terrible. Like, I cannot do this anymore. And so I mean, it was kind of a hard decision, because I mean, there's people on there that I did care about, and keeping up with them, but not, but I mean, I found other ways to do that. So I just, I stopped doing that. But then shortly after this, I was like, you know what? I mean, I could replace the TikTok thing with a podcast.
Yeah.
And, plus this is more fun. I love to talk. So, like, I mean, so it's right up my alley. And Bane said the same thing. He's like, dude, you should do it because you love to talk way too much. And, like, you're right. I do. But, and just to see, and sure, there was some positive impacts, on TikTok and stuff. But, like, not like this. I mean, because I was looking at, because you can look at like, analytics, things like that. This episode has potential to go anywhere, in the world. I mean, but right now, this audience is, I think, it's like 2%. You're good. 2%. It's like from South Africa, or something like that. Yeah. And that just blew me away. I was like, South Africa, like, come on, like, so I mean, of course, it's mostly in the U.S., but there's like a place like I don't even know how to present it, like Papua New Guinea, like something like that, and there's Canada, which is 1%. So that's just cool to see how like far it can go. What? Uh-oh. Oh, okay, I see. So it was just talking about the maximum, but yeah, we're good. So it's just so crazy, like I mean, how things can go,
Yeah,
but
it is really crazy how like far the gospel spreads, and you can only imagine how it's working in those people.
Oh yeah, I mean, and sure, you share the gospel to somebody and all that, and then you like, and then you see them change, and then they go off, and you don't know if it, I'm sure they have helped others. Sure, would you like to know how you helped them and they helped others? Yeah, but that's not our job to know. Like, even though it would be like so nice to know, like to see how that has just continued to go, But I mean, it's just really not our job. But I mean, just to see how much it's affected me. I mean, and how I think. If I do something and I know it's not, because I mean, I'll be honest, I have still done stuff that is not, that I shouldn't have, and I'm like, why did I do that? I'll sit there and just like, I'll sit there and just go, why did I think that, or why did I do, and you have that conviction, definitely.
A lot of things like that, it's really cool. Like, of course, you get guilt. You feel guilt.
Yeah.
You feel conviction when you do something you're not supposed to. But I feel like that guilt conviction is good.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have Christ, if you didn't have the Lord or the Bible, anything like that, you wouldn't feel any guilt for doing something
exactly
you're not supposed to. You just like, you feel numb. And I feel like when you get Christ and you get the Word, you get like a shot of life, and you will start to feel those feelings again. Although they do definitely suck, they're definitely good and they work.
Yeah, and one thing that I mean I will say, and it's just something that, of course, I knew it was going to come, was with doing this. Of course, they've kind of heightened a little bit more because the enemy's just trying to knock on my door. Because I mean, obviously, and that tells me that this is doing something for people, even if it's just one person. So I got to keep going. Like, even with all the rescheduling that we had to do with this episode, and then of course Mikey's coming, I think either next week or the week after that. Like, I mean, this has got to happen. Like, these conversations, they have to happen. Because like you don't know who it can impact. Like we said, 1, 2, whatever.
One thing I want to say is, for baseball, I started like a Bible study thing.
That's cool, yeah.
And so I definitely noticed, and we had a guy come and help us start leading, because I have definitely never led anything before this.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to lead, and it's really amazing to sit down and see the people you're talking to.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing to do that, and I've definitely got the devil's attacking me more and more.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely see it. Like, as soon as you start, getting into the Word, starting to lead, you feel like he's tempting you more and more. And the guy that was helping us start out, he was like, that was the first thing he said. He's like,
you were going to get tempted.
You are going to get tempted more than you have ever been tempted in your life, because the devil knows that you're working, and you're working in God and people to try to reach God, and you will be tempted more than ever.
That's true.
And I saw it happen. I'm like, wow, it says it in the Bible, and it just came true. And it's really cool to think about. Like, it sucks being tempted. It does.
It does, yeah.
You will fail. You're not perfect. 100%. And it's just really cool. But it is still really cool to think, the Bible says that you will get tempted, and watching it happen was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and that just is another way of saying, hey, the stuff in this right here it's living and breathing, and it comes true. I promise.
This is true. There's not one false word.
Nope. And there might be I know there's stuff in there that people don't like. Well, guess what? It's not meant to make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside all the time.
The truth isn't always fun.
No, definitely not. It's really, it's a lot of times it's not fun. But I mean, it's just, it's crazy, like all the stuff that I've been able to just watch, and things like that, I mean, and also too, I wouldn't be, it's some small details, but I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here and jamming out to worship music. I mean, what I would know, I wouldn't have done that before I got saved. I would have thought, what is this? Stuff like that. And then there's another thing. Have you heard of The Chosen before? I've worn the hoodie a few times. But because I was reading, and I'm kind of taking it slow so I can, but I was reading Matthew, and like, the craziest thing, so I was reading it, and then I went and watched an episode. It was exactly what I had read that night, and I was like, whoa, it's so crazy to see what, like what you just read is being acted out on your TV screen, and it also helps you visualize things,
And I do think it's really cool to think about, because like you read it, and a lot of times what you visualize is exactly what they picture about. And there will be some times where like you're visualizing something else, and there'll be something else. But it's really cool to see both sides and see what you thought it was like and what they think it's like. It's really cool.
And like I know people, like, they give it scrutiny because it's like not 100%. I'm like, well, I understand that, and here's the thing, like, it's not 100%. However, I think it is good for people because they might watch this and they go, well, let's see how it either compares or it, and so they go into the Word and dive into it.
Open up, and it's like a gateway.
Exactly. Really think it's good. Oh yeah, it's probably one of the best shows they've made about the life of Christ in a while. But yeah, it's so cool, But since we've only apparently got 60 minutes, is there any like final thoughts that you want to have that you want people to know, or like?
Not really. I think we hit it all.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah. I know. Hey, now you get to say that you've been on a podcast. Yeah.
New things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And one thing I will say is that, because I try to hit it the nail on the head, is that you're never alone in whatever you're struggling with, or maybe whatever it may be. There's always someone that has done that same thing.
And there's people that have been through it, and
they can help you.
How to help, like they can help you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And again, it may be something that you're not comfortable with, but if you want to get over whatever that may be,
you want help,
it's
reach out. There's 10,000% somebody that's gone through it, seen it happen, they're going through it now.
Mm-hmm.
You are not alone, no matter what.
Exactly. You're not, man. Well, it has been an absolute honor to have you as the first youth and the first at-home interview or in-person interview. So, this has been great, and who knows? Maybe the Lord will let us do it again sometime.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.